to another episode of Align Your Mind with Jonathan and Alexa.
So hope everyone has been doing well these last few weeks, and I hope you had a chance to listen to our supercast with the entire Mindful Me board and the last episode of Mind Watch with Dan and Thomas, and the last episode of Need to Heed with Jake and Fernando. So we'll jump right into things, and we of course are going to give you a Mindful Me update. As you heard in our last supercast, we were discussing the idea of a summit, but now that idea is finally formulating into a date and kind of a little quasi agenda that we want to talk to you guys about now. So in that half a day Mindful Me Summit on August 1st, 2020, we are going to have 2 breakout sessions. One breakout session is physical mindfulness. So it's going to be all about how you can be mindful with your body, like for example, what you eat, how you treat your body, how you do working out, and things like that, which also tie into meditation. And that's going to be our first masterclass that Mindful Me ever offers. And then the second masterclass will be right after, and that's meditation and a grounding masterclass. And that's going to be led by Sierra, our own Mindful Me board member, and Mr. Katz, another one of our Mindful Me board members. And that class is going to tell you how to use meditation and grounding and kind of use it throughout your entire life to reduce stresses that you may see popping up. And Alexa, why don't you talk a little bit about the keynote speaker?
So after we have those 2 breakout sessions, we're going to end with a keynote speaker who is a published author as well as a gratitude expert, you can say. Her name is Michelle Vismaya, and she has her own website. She's a very credited person, and we're very excited to have her on board for our first ever virtual summit. This summit's probably going to be around from 9 o'clock in the morning to around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we can't wait to see you all there. And hopefully we'll have a lot of learning experiences for everyone, and you can also get the chance to earn your level 1 certification. So John, why don't you explain what that is?
Yeah, no, this is the part I'm really excited about, because Mindful Me has always been about sharing resources and educating everyone so you guys can actually go educate more people. And we are actually having the opportunity for you to gain a Mindful Me level 1 certification. So what this certification does, it essentially will certify you and give you a few hours of giving you credit for your hours that you're putting in by attending the virtual summit. And you have chances to go on to achieve a full Mindful Me certification as you continue to do more master classes that we're offering. And this is a great opportunity to do these few free master classes, listen to that great keynote speaker Alexa just said. And we're also having a full Mindful Me board panel Q&A that you guys can also listen to and ask questions about these certifications or classes and see the more opportunities Mindful Me allows for these resources that we're trying to spread. So the episode that we're doing today is, as you look around the world, you see a lot going on, especially these last few months, as all of our podcast series have talked upon. But when you kind of think about it, when you think about it in your own light, it's about all the pressure that could be building upon yourself as you go through everyday tasks. And these pressures keep building and building. So we want to kind of talk about social pressures in everyday life. And we're going to break that up into 3 different areas of social pressures you may see. And one is social media and just the basic status quo that comes along with social media. And then the second segment is going to be education and work social pressures. And then the last one is going to be relationships, which can be anything from a couple to relationships with your friends or relationships with your family member. So Alexa, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about the social media and status quo social pressures that we kind of see every day.
So when I think of social pressures, the first thing that comes to mind is social media, whether it be from body image to the things you should be putting out there to wanting to please everyone. And I think a big part of that comes with what the status quo is, which is obviously from like body image, for example, is to be the best looking way, best image for everyone is skinny and like, you know, like you have this glow, whatever. But it's been known on things with, especially TikTok now, I've seen is a lot of positivity accounts where they're all trying to share like everyone's beautiful and body positive. And I think that's actually gotten around to a lot of people and has helped a lot of people. But at the same time, that status quo is still in your mind, because how are you supposed to get rid of that? You know, it's everywhere you turn. And we've talked about this before, but there's so much negativity out there, and we've all learned that the negative outweighs the positive in our own mind, and we focus more on what's negative than what's positive. So as I was saying before, a big pressure comes from social media. So obviously we're not going to tell you just delete your social media. Whether you're a teenager or an adult, it's a way that we have learned to communicate. It's a way that we've learned to spread our ideas, whatever it may be. So John, why don't you talk about what we can do to help ourselves deal with this status quo?
Yeah, an interesting point that you brought up earlier, Alexa, before we get into that, is kind of like social media's intent per se. Alexa and I, of course, every time before we do these podcasts, we try to do a little bit of research. And one of the things we came across is how Facebook, and one of the pioneers of social media, kind of actually started. The whole intent for Facebook starting was for people just to share videos of their family members and family to stay connected with family, for you to kind of stay connected with your college buddies and high school buddies, and that was about it. But now we see social media has been evolving in kind of a negative impact. Now it seems like everyone on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter kind of don't just post without consequence. They kind of think about what they're posting first, because they know it's A, going to have an impact on when people search them, and B, about the amount of likes that they can possibly get, or about who they may be impacting, and natures of that. So that's kind of one of the negativities that come from social media, is that you feel once you have to post that you have to get X amount of likes because your friend got X amount of likes, or you have to do this because someone else is doing that. And that's often the problem with the status quo that we're seeing as well. But recently, we see that people are standing up against the status quo and wanting it to change. And we also see that Instagram and Facebook are doing tests in multiple different countries, such as Canada and Switzerland and Australia, to actually eliminate the likes that people will see, because this allows everyone to eliminate the likes for everyone to see, because this allows people to post without consequence, which is kind of what they're trying to get back to now. But some things that we can do in our everyday life on social media to kind of eliminate these social pressures is, whenever you post, try not to monitor the likes that you're getting, or monitor who's liking it, or how many shares it gets, or retweets. Just kind of post whatever you want to feel in the moment, and don't ever try to regret it by archiving or whatever you may want to do on that nature. And try not to analyze people's posts. Try to be mindful about it. So whenever you see something, just kind of don't overanalyze it. Don't spend too much time on it. Don't stress about it, because people tend to stress about social media a lot. Just kind of go with the flow. I know it's easier said than done, but the more you practice it a little bit, the more it'll change over time. And yeah, so that's kind of the little gist about social media. And yeah.
So like John said, like worrying about the amount of likes, or like wondering who's sharing it or whatever, there's been something going around, specifically Instagram, with the hashtag make it casual, or make Instagram casual. And I think that that's a really good idea. Like, you know how people nowadays will edit their pictures and then think about which ones to post, whatever. And I know back when I was in like middle school, you would literally take a picture on the Instagram app and just post it straight from there. Now you have people editing their pictures, taking them, revising them, looking at it over and over again. So I think a really good idea is to hashtag make it casual. And so if you guys want to participate in that, you can tag us. Of course, we'd love to see how you guys are dealing with these social pressures. Take a picture, do whatever, comment, hashtag make it casual. And I promise you, you'll see a difference in how you react with every picture you post. And tag us so we can see it, because we want to be part of that.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great idea, Alexa. And
Do we talk more about it?
yeah, that's a great idea, Alexa. And Mindful Me is going to take on that challenge and challenge. So you'll see on our Mindful Me Inc. page, at Mindful Me Inc. on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We're going to ask a few of our board members to kind of do something like that, and tag us, as Alexa said, and we'd love to see it, and we'd love to kind of do it with you guys. Transitioning a little bit, we're going to move away from social media and kind of move to education/work. And this is a big topic area that you could think of multiple different ways on how we're going to approach it. But the way Alexa and I want to kind of approach it is by talking first a little bit about school environments and then a little bit about working environments, because they're both a little different but yet kind of interconnect a lot. So a lot of these social pressures that we see in education, from secondary all the way up to collegiate level, is the pressure of having to do well, having to please all these different groups. In secondary education, especially a lot, we see that a typical student may be on an academic team, on a sport team, and be trying to achieve high grade levels to stay competitive with their class, taking standardized tests. And it seems like it could be a lot while maintaining that status quo social area that they want to do well in as well. So, Alexa, why don't you talk a little bit about kind of what you see when you were in high school and kind of the way you dealt with it?
So, from my personal experience, I am now going to be a freshman in college, but after seeing and being in a very competitive public high school for 4 years, it's really it was one of the reasons we started Mindful Me, to be completely honest, was seeing all of these social pressures and seeing how people dealt with them. And from someone who has taken an abundance of AP ACE classes, been on a sports team, been on an academic team and extracurriculars activities and having a job, it's easy to get caught up in wanting to please and not focusing on your mental health, for example. So I think a good tip that I've personally learned, and how Jonathan and I have been saying through the Align Your Mind series, is to take a second every day to breathe. So when you're about to take your AP exam, or when you're about to study for a test, again, close your eyes, take a breath. Even if it takes 5 minutes, it's not gonna be a waste of time. You'll see a difference. And I personally saw a difference, and I'm sure Jonathan has seen a difference from creating Mindful Me and seeing other people have this difference. So just keep in mind that high school is not the end all be all, and there is life after high school. There is life after college. And of course, we're not trying to tell you that don't worry about your grades, because obviously it's something that we're all going to worry about. It's something we all want to succeed in. But we also have to be mindful that it's not our whole life. And if we get one bad grade or two bad grades, it's not the end of the world. And we can't stress ourselves out over it. And we have to learn to move on and do better next time.
Yeah. Just to chip in, Alexa, I think a common misconception, especially in the education realm, is that good grades translate to success, or being in all these academic activities translate to success, and a high SAT score translates to success. I don't think necessarily when you just look at someone and you try to determine what made them successful, you may come to realize that they had bad grades in school. Not to say that you should get bad grades, but that they had bad grades in school, that they didn't have the highest SAT score. So the status quo kind of misrepresents how society actually works, which again is kind of the thing that we're trying to do with this episode of Align Your Mind, is don't necessarily take the misconceptions that we often take as fact, because that's how you get wrapped up in social pressures, because that's what a social pressure is. It's what you're expected to do and how you're expected to do it that equals success. Although working environments are completely different, because you don't have a teacher, but you do have a boss. And for that, the same thing goes with kind of a promotion. You may be working all these hours and you may be trying to get this promotion. And when you're passed up, you feel like you just have to stop. It's not even worth trying anymore. But at that same time, you also have to say, I can get this, you can do this. And by changing those ideas in your head, it can absolutely go towards your benefit.
And that goes with everything. Change one word, change your life. Just like Jonathan and I talked about last time, it's all about maintaining a positive attitude. And that's a big thing when it comes to social pressures and the status quo, is keeping in mind that, everyone has a different perspective and everyone is going to have a different idea. But as long as your personal beliefs and your personal ideas stay positive, you can't really go wrong. So again, staying positive in things like relationships, which is our next segment.
Alexa, just to add in something real quick, I was reading this study quite a long time back about this high school in, I believe it was Arizona or maybe South Carolina, I'm not quite sure. But what they did is they actually got rid of the valedictorian, salutatorian, and class rank. Because the reason they did this is because they believed that these things of status quo that say someone's good and say someone's smart was actually not working at all, and it was actually hurting their students in a negative impact. And a cool thing with one of the colleges here in Florida, New College of Florida, they actually don't have grades. So the reason they did that is because of mindfulness and because of mental health. They determined that grades were kind of an unnecessary status that determines someone's worth, even though that's not what it does at all. So that's just something cool to kind of add in about education. As we see society evolving, we see them kind of trying to eliminate some of these things that aren't being used for its original intent, per se.
Yeah, I think that is interesting. It goes to show that, you know, grades aren't the end all be all, and there's life after college, there's life after high school, and getting a bad grade isn't going to determine your whole future.
For sure. Um, Anything else you want to add about this segment, Alexa?
I think we're good to move on to relationships. What do you think?
For sure. So relationships is a big word. There's a bunch of definitions, even though it's commonly referred to as like a couple, but we want to kind of dive a little deeper into that. So we're going to talk about couples, we're going to talk about friendship relationships, we're going to talk about the possible relationship with your teachers and your boss, and just relationships within your family. So Alexa, why don't you kind of start this one off?
So you mentioned something that I didn't even think of really, which is a relationship with your teacher. And I tend to be one of the students that have always made that relationship with a teacher where it's almost like a friend. Like you can joke with them, you can, you know, kind of act as though, obviously with respect, as though they are your friends. So I think that that really helped me throughout high school and has helped me stay positive. Some of the teachers I've had in high school, I know I'll keep in contact with in college. And a social pressure from that, you can even get backlash for, saying you're the teacher's pet or whatever it may be. But again, everyone's going to have a different perspective. And as long as it's helping you, it doesn't really matter what anyone has to say about it. I just thought that was kind of interesting that you added that in. But for me, I think a lot of pressure when it comes to relationships does come from family, mainly success wise in life and dealing with the next steps moving forward. So I know a lot of our listeners are either high school graduates or in high school. So speaking from my personal perspective, just having graduated high school and going on to college, my parents aren't even thinking about the next 4 years. They're thinking about the next 8 years. Are you going to go to med school? Are you going to go to law school? Are you going to go to graduate school? And I think that that's a huge pressure that I don't even think I should be worrying about right now. First, get through the first 4 years and deal with that later. So I think a big thing to focus on is staying in the present and focusing on the present. So instead of looking at the next 8 years, look at the next year or this year, where you are right now. Like right now, in about 2 months, I'm moving to Orlando, and that's going to be a big change. And dealing with everything else going on, pressures from my family, is going to push me to stress about things that I shouldn't be stressing about yet. So that kind of ties in with education as well, but it's stress from the family or it's social pressures from family. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. John?
Yeah, what you said about family is quite interesting because a few months back I had an interesting position where I was accepted to a school kind of early into my high school career, and it just wasn't expected. And a lot of my family members wanted me to go ahead and take the offer that I was given because it was unique to them, because it was something that, you know, would translate to success. But to me, when I looked back, I had to reevaluate what my definition of success was. Was it going to a good school, or was it making an impact in people's lives? And I think it took a while to kind of relieve the pressure that I made the right decision of not going to that school early and kind of trying to do another route of going to trying to do Mindful Me and a few other non-for-profits and do some more community work, which is what I think true success is, which again, the definition of success is very loose. It's up to you to interpret. But that's just kind of one of the social pressures, it's what even is success, kind of, because that's what you really have to determine in your own life. Is success happiness? Is it making money, or is it kind of helping people? Alexa, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, success, like you said, does come in a lot of different forms, and it's for everyone to maintain differently. One of my goals for success is being able to balance multiple relationships at one time. So, for instance, I have some really good friends, and I also have a relationship that I'm in. And, balancing a boyfriend and friends can be hard sometimes. And I think that that